Dr. Sangeeta Reddy, President of FICCI, my colleague Shri Sudhanshu Pandeyji, Secretary, Department of Food and Public Distribution, Mr. Herjit Bhalla, Co-Chair of the FICCI FMCG Committee, my good friend Dilip Chenoy, Secretary General of FICCI, all the distinguished participants of this very important and probably first of its kind virtual FMCG Supply Chain Expo, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be a part of history in the making. And why I say this is, just like Sudhanshu said, and I'm just amending what he said a little bit, that in the post-COVID world, we'll come back to normal. Sudhanshu ji, this is the new normal, and we have to accept this reality. The world has changed. The world will learn and unlearn out of this COVID-19 experience. We'll unlearn a lot of our bad practices. We'll learn to live with more care and consciousness towards cleanliness, towards hygiene. We'll deploy technology to improve our efficiency and effectiveness. We'll learn to be more prudent, more conscious in our business activities as well as our social engagements, hopefully. And it applies to, I think, large parts of India. We'll learn to be more well-behaved in our celebrations also. Not that I'm criticizing any celebrations, but I think Mr. Bhalla, coming from Punjab, as do I, will understand what I'm referring to. But it's across the country. I think celebrations is a time you want to let go. But at the same time, I think people of India now will be far more careful and conscious. And all of these new things in the new age world will help us redefine the future of India. And to my mind, will also help us be more caring citizens, more caring for the lesser privileged sections of society. In fact, Prime Minister Narendra Modi in the last 6 years has focused his efforts largely to a better quality of life for the marginalized sections of society. After all, when he made 11 crore toilets and provided an open defecation-free India, brought Swachhata, cleanliness, to the forefront of the national agenda, when he took broadband to the remotest corners of India under Digital India, when he provided 8 crore families with free cooking gas connections, when he ensured that every household gets electricity, when he provided healthcare to 50 crore people, many of whom would otherwise have no opportunity to go and visit a doctor or a hospital. And when he provided bank accounts through the Jan Dhan Yojana or Aadhaar cards to probably over 110 or 115 crore Indians in the last 7 or 8 years, I think all of these programs collectively have been game changers. They have completely transformed the national landscape and prepared India to fight this pandemic, this COVID-19, which Sudhanshu rightly pointed out, is the worst of its kind the world has ever seen. India was able to overcome that thanks to the massive effort that the nation carried out in the last 6 years under the inspirational leadership of Prime Minister Modi, with the strong inputs and efforts of industry leaders and industry associations such as all of you. And I'll share with you a small comment my wife made recently, as recent as yesterday for that matter, to a friend who had come over. And she said that, look, if we look back in history, if there was a Band or if there was a, even a terrorist attack, or if there was any apadda, any problem that the nation faced, people could not remain indoors even for 3 days. On the third day, they had to go out. Not because they couldn't stay indoors, because they had to go out and earn their day's livelihood. People had to move out of their houses because they had to get back to work, earn money, send it back home. Otherwise, as they say in Hindi, khane ke lale pad jate. It was difficult to sustain food for your families. But it is the first time this nation has been able to keep people in the world's most strictest lockdown, keep them in their homes, provide for food and other basic necessities for every citizen across the length and breadth of the country. We've been able to ensure equitable distribution of free food grains to almost 80 crore lesser privileged people. And being railway minister, I must say I acknowledge the contribution of the railways and of the food and distribution department. Both of them collectively worked in an overdrive throughout the lockdown. After all, they also have families. They also have people at home concerned about their health. I'm sure the FCI godown manager or the station manager or goods shed manager or the loco pilot of trains or the RPF who provided security both to our freight trains and to the Shramik specials throughout this period also were concerned about their well-being. This morning I was checking with the Northern Railway director of the Northern Railway Hospital, and the statistics of number of people in the railways who are affected by COVID is shocking. But they were at the front line. They were working relentlessly day and night. But they made sure, along with my colleagues from the Consumer Affairs Department and the Food Ministry, Food and Public Distribution Ministry, that throughout the country, people got food grains, petrol and petroleum products were available everywhere, fertilizer, not one incident of shortage of fertilizer to any farmer in the whole country. Milk was available throughout the country. And Sudhanshuji, when you were listing out the value given to the rural people, you missed out that milk prices have seen an upward trend of 3 or 4 rupees, which means almost 5 rupees, which means nearly 80,000 odd crores extra has gone to the farmers, particularly the small farmers who have 1, 2, 3 cows, and given them additional income because of more realistic prices of milk during the last 1.5 years. And why I share all this is that the effort of 6 years has resulted in a nation where today almost every family we could reach out to through direct benefit transfer, through allowing ration cards to be used across the length and breadth of the country because there's an Aadhaar linkage. They can now pick up food grains anywhere in the country. Because of digital India and power being available in everybody's homes, people could stay indoors. Otherwise, it would be near impossible to sit at home without electricity, as I'm sure any of us will recognize and understand. And in that same breath, we could seamlessly move from the real world, from the physical world, to the virtual world, or as they are now calling it, phygital, I believe. A combination of physical and digital is what we are experiencing in many parts of business. And your journey, even as FICCI arranges this first virtual FMCG supply chain expo, was seamless and facilitated because of the immense efforts that the country made and the contribution of all of you collectively to prepare India. Not that we knew COVID is going to come. I don't think anybody in the world, or at least Most countries in the world could never have imagined something like COVID coming in, except maybe the producers or the director or the script writer of Contagion way back in 2011. I don't know whether he was privy to some information or he gave ideas to some people. I'm not sure. I don't know what happened. But whatever it is, other than that, I think none of us in this world expected something like this to fall upon us so suddenly, so dramatically, and so drastically. But I'm delighted that this new platform which you have created will help us brainstorm, will help us deliberate and arrive at suggestions and good ideas for the future. And this first initiative, I'm told, also being carried out on an indigenously built platform in the true spirit of Atmanirbhar Bharat, will help us pursue the vision that the Honorable Finance Minister had in any case articulated in her budget speech when she announced about e-market linkages that will now be promoted going forward. It was also a part of the Atmanirbhar Bharat announcements that as we free different sectors, particularly agriculture, mining, space, as each of these sectors looks at engaging in a public-private partnership mode, I think more and more digital technologies are also going to come to fore. Change is not always pleasant, ladies and gentlemen, but it is the way of nature. Change also actually brings a great deal of excitement sometimes. Despite the struggles and the problems that all of us are facing in COVID, I think this change will also bring in a lot of positive elements, a lot of learnings, which will help us take development to the remotest parts of India, involve people from across the country as we evolve into the new age, into the new world. It will help us adopt technology faster. It will help us increase efficiency in production, productivity in our factories, streamline and address supply chain issues, and actually prepare us to become a part of global supply chains as we go forward. In fact, if I may quote from Mahatma Gandhi, father of the nation, constant development is the law of life, and a man who always tries to maintain his dogmas in order to appear consistent drives himself into a false position. Imagine Mahatma Gandhi so many years ago could visualize that one will have to adopt with change. You cannot live with the old dogmas of the past. One cannot just live in the age-old thinking all the time. And as we adopt to change, we constantly drive ourselves to be a part of the changing world, that's where we can really take development and the betterment of mankind forward. In fact, this convergence of physical and digital platforms have made it possible to track and monitor supply chains in real time, and this will really help us monitor our work, generate a lot of data, and as they say, data is the new oil. It'll help us do better data analytics to enhance efficiency in our supply chains, get rid of bottlenecks. There are so many good things that I can see happening out of our own engagement with technology going forward. And as we reduce human intervention, I think we'll also eliminate human error. So a lot of good things awaiting us in the future. And I'm sure the work that you are doing will help us possibly revamp our business processes, redirect the way we are working, redirect our own age-old thinking, and reposition India's role both in our local supply chains and in global supply chains. In fact, this will be a channel which will integrate so many processes. It will automate so many different processes. They'll bring in so much transparency in procurement. And I think that'll help India in the long run, because business continuity is ultimately going to be determined by how quickly our businesses change, adapt, and also look at becoming more and more prudent in our business processes. Difficult times are always times when we tighten the belt, as all of us in business know. These are times when we look at every element of cost, do cost cutting wherever it's possible. And this improvement in efficiency and productivity from time to time is what helps businesses succeed in the long run. In fact, Steve Jobs had said a very important thing when he talked about technology. He had said, technology is nothing. What's important is that you have faith in people, that they are basically good and smart. And if you give them tools, they'll do wonderful things with them. Technology is only that tool which helps people do wonderful things, which helps people succeed. Let's not make technology the end in itself. Let's trust the basic instinct and the capability of our people. They are smart, they can do good things, they can learn and adapt to the new way of doing things very quickly. Technology will be an enabler. It will help them do those same things better. And I think that now that we have invested in creating better local supply chains, somewhat with this virtual FMCG supply chain initiative, we must look at what we can do in the global supply chains as a trusted partner. People are looking for good economies to work with, to deal with, and I'm sure India can contribute to global supply chains in a very, very strong manner. We can be a part of these global supply chains, provide work opportunity to millions of people, give work to so many people, so many young brothers and sisters who can become a part of our growing engagement with the world. In fact, of late I find some little bit of criticism coming my way about some of the steps that we are taking to promote and support domestic industry. Again, as they say, Chitbi, you are going to, Balla will probably be able to explain it better. You do something, you are damned. You don't do the same thing, you are damned. Either way, you are going to get beaten up. All these years, everybody used to say, protect domestic industry, support domestic industry. How can we compete with unfair methods of working in some of our neighboring countries? How can we compete with countries who provide hidden subsidies, where interest rates are much lower than what we have in India? How can we compete with countries who don't have a democratic and transparent way of working? But when you do the necessary enablement to support domestic industry, you find some voices trying to give you gyan, try to be very prophetic, try to be very holier than thou, and tell you, no, this is going back into the 90s, you're going back to the license Raj. It shocks me when people don't understand this is not business amongst equals. What we are only trying to do is make sure that my domestic manufacturers, my domestic industry, our stakeholders get a fair play. How can it be that one country does not allow tires to be exported to them, but wants a free import of tires from that country into India? How can it be that my medicines cannot go to another country, but they want their products to be sold in India? The world works with equal terms. There have to be equal and fair and reciprocal arrangements. If other countries are desirous of the Indian market, of the 1.3 billion Indian market opportunity, They want to provide services to meet our needs. They also have to give our country's businesses equal opportunity to engage in their countries. They cannot put overarching technical barriers or overarching regulations which don't allow our products to go into their countries and then complain if we put any standards in our country. I was amazed when some countries of Europe were complaining about the technical standards put on tires in India. I can list out 5,000 items on which technical standards have been put in their countries. Why should India not have the right to put technical standards? Why should we not have the right to ensure that we get good quality products? Why should India not have the right to ensure that used products or waste products or seconds are not sold in our Indian market? I think it's important that all those who are opposing the efforts of Indian government to provide a level playing field to our industry are bringing in technical standards and good quality practices to ensure that only good quality material comes into India, should adopt these technical standards and ensure that they supply only good quality product, and before complaining about our actions, should first talk to their own governments and make sure that their governments allow Indian products fair and equitable access before they make a complaint about India. Similarly, I hear about some people complaining about having invested in India and wanting to have more and more opportunity to import products, assemble them in India and sell it in the India market. I fail to understand how that can be a matter of right. If they have invested in India, they want to engage with the Indian market, I would believe they should look at indigenizing, particularly those items where India has capabilities, where India has enough and more companies who can provide for the requirements of these companies. We are not here, or we don't get excited only by an investment which is brought into India to capture the Indian market, to save probably some import duty on the finished product, and then come to India only to assemble those products. I certainly don't believe India is a weak-kneed nation that is only going to be an assembly workshop for countries to bring completely knocked down kits or semi knocked down kits and assemble them in India and supply to the Indian market. I think they should, in a phased manner, look at sourcing from India, developing their products in India, and then encash the large business opportunity that 1.3 billion Indians are offering to businesses across the world. We invite investment. We are encouraging investment. We want to allow free flow of goods, but it has to be reciprocal. It cannot be one-sided. And I think that's the effort that the government of India is doing. And I'm sure that the industry associations and FICCI has been at the forefront of all our efforts to support Indian industry, will talk to their members, will guide their members that they have to help us by engaging more and more with Indian industry, supporting Indian industry, just like some countries don't allow products from India to enter their market, not because government stops it, but the industry themselves does not allow products from other countries to come into their market. Without taking names, but many of you are aware, there are countries which don't allow Indian steel to enter their marketplace. There are countries which have canalized agencies for import of steel in their country and don't allow Indian steel to enter their country. What right do they have to insist that India should be an open import market for any and everything that they want to import into India? I think Indian products deserve fair access in their countries before they can expect complete unlimited access in the Indian market. Similarly, when they are setting up factories, when they are setting up businesses in India, one will also have to look at what is the need to import and whether in a gradual and phased manner they are looking at bringing technology to India, bringing products to India, producing and value adding in India, and not just remaining screwdriver technology assembly workshops. It may not sound very good to certain businesses, but I think it is time Indian industry stood up as one and ensured that we get a level playing field. Those countries which give good and fair access to our Indian products will certainly get very, very good and fair access to their products into India. It'll be a two-way traffic. We are moving towards balanced trade with more and more countries and regions. And I think Indian industry, I hope, will partner us in this effort towards a fair and reciprocal trade. This was one of the reasons India chose not to join the RCEP when we found that it was a completely unequitable arrangement that was sought to be made. As we study the free trade agreements entered into in 2009, 10 and 11, we are finding complete asymmetries in the kind of agreements that have been made. We find non-tariff barriers being put up. We don't allow Indian exports to take the benefit of free trade agreements, whereas large amounts and large quantities of products are coming into India through the free trade agreements without adequate protection for Indian industry in India. I think it's important that we ensure a fair and equitable engagement and trade between countries and regions. And I do hope organizations like FICCI, CII, ASSOCHAM, businesses across India will help us in this endeavor to ensure fair treatment for our products, fair treatment for our industry. Of course, we will have to work towards improving our quality standards domestically. We'll have to improve our productivity. We'll have to enlarge our scale of operation. But I assure you, the government of India will stand shoulder to shoulder with you in your efforts to become more competitive, to engage with the world on equal and fair terms. And we shall ensure that any unfair treatment meted out to Indian industry across the world will be taken up at the highest level on your behalf. And we do hope you all will also equally support us in our endeavors to ensure equal and reciprocal trading arrangements amongst nations, amongst regions. And why do we do this? I would like to quote once again the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man whom you may have seen, and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him. Ladies and gentlemen, every time I take any such step, I have before me the man standing at the bottom of the pyramid in our country, the man who for generations, the man and woman whose families for generations haven't benefited from the progress that the world has made. I see children who don't have footwear. I see children who don't have quality healthcare education. And I think it is our collective duty, all of us, that we keep in front of our eyes that person who has remained without adequate income, without adequate quality of life, because we did not plan the nation's economic development in a fair and equitable manner to meet the needs of 130 crore Indians. Prime Minister Modi over the last 6 years has focused his attention on that underprivileged section of society. As I started my comments from that aspect, he brought light in their lives. He brought clean cooking medium into their lives. He brought healthcare into their lives. He gave them electricity. He gave them financial inclusion, easy loans through the Mudra scheme. He brought them toilets in their homes. All of these projects were keeping the weakest and the poorest in mind. Today, in our economic engagement also, we will have to ensure that all our actions will help improve the quality of lives of that last man at the bottom of the pyramid, will provide work for him, will provide jobs for him, will provide him good quality products at competitive prices, will ensure a better future for the next generation and for generations to come. Let this generation and all of us be remembered in history for our contribution to make India a strong nation, to make India a nation that cares for 130 crore Indians and does not look only at what it is in it for him or her or for his business, but ensures that his business interests are closely aligned to the interests of 130 crore Indians. That is the India, ladies and gentlemen, that you and I are all working towards. And I invite FICCI and all the participants of this virtual FMCG supply chain expo to work in that spirit, to take our engagement through the virtual world, to the nook and corner of India, to the rest of the world. And let us make sure that India brings back economic activity very, very quickly. In fact, I can share with you that we have good green shoots visible in the economy. Exports have shown a good turnaround. We are in July at about 91% export level of the previous year's July 19 figures. Imports are still at about 70% level of July 19. So 70-71% levels. So broadly, our balance of payments this year is going to be very, very strong, which is why we feel confident that Indian industry will see opportunities for themselves, will see opportunities of growth. Rail freight for the last 12 days has exceeded the freight we carried in the last 12 days 1 year ago. And railway freight is a very good indicator of the moving and growing economic activity. I'm told power consumption has almost come back to last year's levels. These are good indicators. Let's not show any weakness. COVID is there, we'll overcome it. But as a nation, let's bring back economic activity, bring back confidence in our ability to overcome COVID, bring back that spirit that India and Indian industry and businesses always had. As they say, there's an old African proverb, if you want to go fast, walk alone. If you want to go far, then walk together. I invite Indian industry to walk together, support each other, and work towards a prosperous India in the long run. A very, very delightful way of doing business in India, for which we are working to bring in single window, to bring in easier processes, and bring, along with ease of doing business, in ease of living for 130 crore Indians, a better future for our brothers and sisters and for generations to come. Thank you very much, and I shall continue to look forward to your continued support. I pray to God for your and your near and dear ones good health, and I pray you will take care, social distancing, wearing a face mask, all of these guidance that you have received from time to time, please implement them faithfully and religiously going forward. I'd also like to convey my best wishes to the former President of India, Honorable Shri Pranab Mukherjee, for early recovery from COVID, early recovery of my senior leaders, Shri Amit Shahji, the Honorable Home Minister of India, Dharmendra Pradhanji, the Honorable Petroleum Minister of India, Arjun Ram Meghwalji, Kailash Chaudharyji, and all the others across the length and breadth of the country who have been affected by COVID. I wish them speedy recovery. Our recovery rates are amongst the best in the world, close to 69-70% now. And I'm sure India will come out winner from this challenge, from this crisis. Thank you very much.